Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a video covering the Arye RCC-1. This is a new small form factor symmetrical mouse on the market, and just going without saying, I do think that the aesthetic definitely needs to be brought out first. I think the mouse looks absolutely incredible. It's got this nice sci-fi theme, but it also feels like a pretty solid mouse in terms of its overall build quality with the structural integrity. The coating feels quite nice. It feels like a rubberized kind of dry effect, and the overall material here, it was supposed to be a carbon fiber mouse, now a carbon fiber reinforced plastic, but whatever it is, the plastic does feel like your higher quality variant in comparison to a lot of those budget Chinese mice from random factories that we've seen pop up over time. Overall, the mouse does have a pretty solid feel to it, but there are a lot of quirks, and those little quirks add up. So I do want to talk about the build quality and some of the aspects that I've seen. But overall, again, if you don't like big gaping holes in your mouse, you're not going to like this big gaping hole here in the center of the mouse. Aesthetically, I think it looks pretty sci-fi, pretty clean. And the ridges here, I do just want to say off the bat, did not feel like anything that was like pointing at me or anything that was uncomfortable to use. I actually found it quite comfortable for all sorts of different grips. So that should not be a factor there. And it's not, it's something that's designed quite well. It's very smooth there on those ridges. Backside of the mouse is quite open. So again, if anybody doesn't like that open nature to a particular mouse, that's something to take into consideration. The only thing I would say with this particular backing, if you are to use full-size skates, I did find that the mouse has a little bit more stability. When you hit the mouse on the very, very sides because of its overall weight or maybe the shape, size, flatness of the base, it does raise very, very easily from side to side. So just something to take into consideration depending on where your pressure points are on the mouse could be something that leads you to a little bit of an issue depending on if you're using full-size skates or dots, and certainly something that you can play around with. I did find the mouse because of its open back cutouts here, it was a little bit more difficult to find a good orientation with dots, but I do think that overall I've got it handled, and the mouse does feel fine right now. Overall, it does have a nice, I believe, aluminum or metal scroll wheel here, and it is using a TTC Gold encoder. It feels good. It's got nice, well-defined steps, and overall feels quite smooth. Scrolling up and down, and the main buttons are Omron optical. I will say that for the actuation and the rebound of Mouse 1 and Mouse 2, it's actually a very nice implementation of Omron optical, better than a lot that we've seen recently, and overall does lead to a nice click experience and very, very spammable. The one thing I will say, however, is that in terms of its overall build quality, when you are holding down Mouse 1, there is quite a bit of movement on my plastic on Mouse 1, and enough movement where I can actually get it to kind of sway quite a lot, both diagonally out and then back in and hit that sidewall, making a little bit of a popping noise. Overall, it does happen as well on Mouse 2, and you can see Mouse 2 has a kind of like interesting level of sway. It's not just that the side button has side play, it's literally that that reinforced carbon plastic is tilting diagonally and then going back into its normal resting position. So there's a little bit of build quality concerns there on Mouse 1 and Mouse 2 and how it actually feels in game when I am holding spray or holding ADS with my right click. Overall, I wish it was more buttoned up. It would feel like a more kind of refined and final product in terms of the feeling of Mouse 1 and Mouse 2. Mouse 3 I do find to be quite spammable. The button is a Huano mechanical button, feels good, and then the side buttons are TTC mini mechanicals. To me, the side buttons need a whole heckload of a lot of work, and it's not really just work on the side buttons in general, from post-travel and pre-travel, and just how generally they feel. They just feel open, floppy, and not really crisp at all. It leaves a lot to be desired. The pre-travel is actually pretty extensive, and the post-travel is actually pretty damn bad. I do think that the side buttons, like, they almost just don't seem like they fit within the space as well. Like when you're looking at the mouse, you can see empty gaps here above Mouse 4 and Mouse 5. I wish that was buttoned up a little bit. It would lead to a nicer aesthetic overall. But really, it is the feeling of the side buttons that needs to be buttoned up in general. The side buttons also, if you compare it to the G303 Shroud Edition, one of the things with the Arye is it tried to kind of like take that nature of the 303, and you can see how the 303, how the side buttons almost look like they are, instead of going straight or turning to the left, which is what side buttons usually do, G303 kind of looks like these side buttons are turning to the right. The issue, though, is on the 303, the area where your thumb actually rests, the top mouse button is just very, very accessible. And because of the resting spot of my thumb, the side button actually does feel like it's kind of flat and in line with the bottom side button. With the Arye, because my thumb is actually a lot more forward, it does feel quite awkward in hitting the top side button. And when you actually look at the Arye, the shell of the mouse, the side buttons are actually making a curve. So you've got the bottom side button that's like right here, and then the button above that almost is going basically like this above it. And with the resting position of where my thumb is, it just makes these side buttons feel very peculiar and quite awkward. I do think that that will probably be an issue for a lot of people in terms of the general feel of these side buttons and where your thumb is resting on the side panel of the mouse. But overall, if you have smaller hands, maybe your hand will be resting in a different position where your thumb is not having that issue. But I do think these side buttons in general, at least on the copy that I have, need a lot of work. And Mouse 1 and Mouse 2 as well. Yes, the actuation of those Omron opticals feels nice, feels crispy, feels like a good implementation, but it is the plastic material over Mouse 1 and Mouse 2 that needs to be refined to not tilt and not have as much travel when you are holding down spray or holding down ADS, because you're feeling this popping and feeling this moving of the material that just makes the mouse feel not refined during use. Overall, the performance here, you've got a 300 mAh battery, so with 8,000 hertz, you're getting about probably between 12 and 18 hours of general use. At 1,000 hertz, you're looking at, I think, over 80 hours of general use. So it's really going to depend on where you want to place that hertz pulling rate with respect to the overall battery life. Again, overall, like, there are a lot of things that in terms of the overall build quality, I just kind of don't really see working for me all that well, depending on like the price point of the mouse. Hopefully it's things that they can brush up and refine before the general release. The only other thing I would say is, again, on the bottom shell here, on the base of the mouse, there's so many cutouts that it's a little bit hard to get a general good placement of dots if you want to use dots. I would recommend using full-size skates because it is just a little bit hard with dots to get a good orientation where it doesn't feel like my mouse is lifting up oddly during use. I do think I've got it in a good orientation right now where the mouse overall feels like it's staying flat. But because of the weight of the mouse, which is 47 grams, when I am putting a bit of pressure on the left side, you can see how easy it is for that mouse to tilt upward. And likewise, on the right side, you can see that mouse just wants to kind of tilt and come up. So I don't know if it's the flatness of the base, the general dimensions of the base, or just the general skate orientation. But even with the full-size skates, I did feel that lift off pretty easily depending on where I was hitting the mouse. Generally speaking, I can play very well with the Arye, but for me, the shape just doesn't compare to the other mice in my general lineup. For me, I'm somebody who is on the medium to large side that I am preferring right now. The Arye to me is just a little bit too small. In comparison to the G303, I prefer the G303 shape. It's larger, it is more bulky, but it gives me a better base for general spraying and tracking. For me, the Arye is quite fun to use, but it's just too small for me. And with its general angles, again, things like the side buttons and the general shape, it just doesn't quite work for me. It wasn't something that I found myself playing well with. I can play well with it, of course, but it's just not something that I found that I was as consistent as I would have liked. Overall, whoever, again, is on the design team did a hell of a job. The box is just absolutely beautiful. When you pull this thing open, you really do feel like you're getting a pristine, super nice experience here. It just feels like a lot of thought went behind it. Just a lot of things in the box, like stickers. Of course, you've got some extra skates and some other things here as well, a cleaning cloth, a little instruction manual, etc. Again, like just the unboxing, the aesthetic, the sci-fi nature of it, it's something that to me, it looks like they just went above and beyond and took that extra step to provide a really nice overall experience. And hopefully when you guys, if you do make a purchase, you don't run into some of the similar issues that I did. It's not a mouse that I'm personally going to go back to, but it is a mouse that I love looking at because it just looks so freaking cool. So again, kudos to the design team. I would say that if you're somebody who is looking for a mouse on the smaller side of things, you might really enjoy it. Again, it's not that I don't think the shape could be good for a lot of people. It's just, it's not working for me. So guys, that is going to be it for this one. I think the people with smaller hands, you should probably look for a reviewer with smaller hands as well. And that might give you a general idea of how it might feel for you in terms of overall performance. Again, just not something that is working for my size hands. I hope it helped, guys. If it did, please leave a sub to the channel. See you guys in the next review. Peace.